before synthetic fertilizer, before a single bag of Miracle Grow, before the word nitrogen meant anything to a farmer. The Haudenosaunee were growing 3 crops in the same soil: corn, beans, and squash, with no fertilizer, no pesticide, and no irrigation. It sounds like a myth. 1 plot, 3 plants, more food than the ground should be able to give. Except this isn't a myth. A Cornell agronomist ran the actual field trials, published the numbers, and the old way won. More calories per acre, more protein per acre than any modern version of the same crops. Here is exactly how it works, and exactly why we were taught to forget it. Modern industrial farming operates on a foundational rule: 1 crop per field. To simplify cultivation and harvest, farmers plant endless rows of a single species, relying on heavy machinery and chemicals to keep the soil productive. But centuries before the first modern tractor, another system flourished in the northeast woodlands. The Haudenosaunee grew corn, beans, and squash together on the exact same ground. Archaeologist John Hart dates this northeast polyculture to sometime after 700 years ago, tracing its origins through carbonized residues on ancient pottery. This co-cropping was a planned agronomic design distinct from accidental companion planting. It functioned as a structured ecosystem requiring no synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, or irrigation. The core question is whether a practice historically dismissed as primitive was actually more productive and ecologically balanced than the single crop systems that replaced it. Evaluating the claims of this system required moving past historical observations and directly into the soil. Dr. Jane Matt Pleasant, an agronomist of Tuscarora descent and former director of Cornell's American Indian program, established this scientific foundation through 3 decades of replicated field experiments in New York. This work moves the analysis from historical accounts to physical evidence. In 2010, she published Estimating Productivity of Traditional Iroquoian Cropping Systems in the Journal of Ethnobiology, establishing a baseline of open, verifiable data. She expanded this research in her 2011 paper, The Paradox of Plows and Productivity, published in Agricultural History. This peer-reviewed literature relies on direct agronomic testing rather than speculation or folklore. It provides a clear, citable basis for assessing the biological reality of Haudenosaunee farming methods, offering empirical proof that challenges conventional agricultural design. At the center of this agricultural design is a direct physical partnership. Corn grows first, providing a strong, living trellis. Climbing beans wrap around the stalk, anchoring the corn against heavy winds while hosting rhizobium bacteria in their root nodules to pull nitrogen from the air. Sprawling squash covers the soil below, its broad leaves acting as a living mulch that shades out weeds and conserves moisture, while prickly stems deter pests. Grown alone, corn quickly depletes soil nitrogen, beans trail vulnerably on the ground, and squash leaves the earth open to dry out. Together, each plant directly resolves a biological limitation of its neighbor. This coordinated arrangement functions as a self-sustaining ecosystem, solving structural and nutritional challenges centuries before modern plant science existed to explain them. To understand why this 3-part partnership thrives, agronomy moves past the language of companion planting and applies standard plant science. The core of the system relies on solving a resource deficit. Corn is a heavy feeder that rapidly strips nitrogen from the soil. Climbing beans directly counter this depletion. Through a symbiotic relationship with soil bacteria, beans extract atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into a plant-available form, replenishing the soil in place. Above the ground, the system optimizes physical space. Rather than competing for solar radiation, the plants form a vertically layered canopy. The tall corn, mid-level beans, and low-lying squash capture more sunlight per square foot than any single-level crop could manage alone. In modern agricultural science, this cooperative efficiency is known as the intercropping yield advantage. The Three Sisters functions as a textbook demonstration of this principle, showing how structural and biological stratification allows multiple species to generate more collective growth on the same patch of earth than they ever could apart. Dr. Jane Matt Pleasant's field trials in New York translated these biological interactions into exact agricultural data, moving the analysis from historical accounts to physical evidence. Over years of replicated testing, the interplanted Three Sisters system produced 12.25 million kilocalories of food energy and 349 kilograms of protein per hectare. In practical terms, a single hectare of this polyculture yielded enough annual energy to sustain 13 people, alongside enough protein for 16. The corn itself remained highly productive within the intercropped mounds. Yields ranged from 22 to 76 bushels per acre, with the highest outputs recorded on the fertile soils of the New York Lake Plain. When evaluated against monocultures, the results challenged the foundational rule of modern farming. The interplanted system outperformed both the individual monoculture versions of each crop and an equivalent mix of those same crops grown in separate, single-species fields, delivering 23% more energy and 38% more protein per unit area. Rather than competing for resources, the three plants maximized the field's collective output. These numbers provided empirical, peer-reviewed proof that a traditional polyculture could generate more human sustenance on the same footprint than modern single-crop designs. The high productivity of the Three Sisters only translates to human survival if the body can actually access those nutrients. Unprocessed corn holds its niacin bound tightly inside the kernel. The Haudenosaunee solved this through nixtamalization, cooking the grain in an alkaline mixture of water and wood ash lye. Dr. Mount Pleasant's nutrient analyses show that this chemical processing makes niacin, or vitamin B3, fully bioavailable while dramatically increasing calcium levels and improving protein quality. When European and American populations later adopted corn as a cheap dietary staple without this alkali step, they suffered massive epidemics of pellagra, a devastating niacin deficiency disease. The Haudenosaunee system bypassed this vulnerability entirely. The beans in the mound contribute lysine, an essential amino acid missing from maize. Eaten together, the crops provide a complete, balanced protein profile, showing that this agricultural system's design was as biochemically sophisticated in the pot as it was in the soil. During the 17th and 18th centuries, Haudenosaunee maize farmers produced roughly 3 to 5 times more grain per acre than contemporary European wheat farmers working with iron plows. This historical advantage came from the crop and the method together. While European grain demanded clean, deeply plowed fields, maize tolerated rough, untilled soils, preserving organic matter and structure. Hand-hoeing and the natural shading of the crop canopy made weeding demands far easier to manage. Centuries of local adaptation also meant these indigenous varieties were perfectly suited to the regional climate. The lesson of this comparison is not one of nostalgia or anti-modern sentiment. It is an empirical demonstration that a low-input, soil-building system could out-yield the plow. Wait until after the final frost when the soil is warm. Build a flat-topped almosand mound 12 inches high and 18 to 24 inches wide, spacing individual mounds 3 to 4 feet apart. Plant 4 to 6 corn seeds directly in the center of the mound. Once the corn seedlings reach 6 inches tall, plant climbing pole beans around them. Then place squash or pumpkin seeds around the base of the mound. This precise, staggered timing lets the corn establish a sturdy trellis before the beans begin to climb, while the squash develops its broad leaves just as weed seeds attempt to germinate. Once established, this compact mound operates with minimal intervention, leaving a garden bed that largely feeds and weeds itself. As modern soils deplete, the Haudenosaunee system stands as a vital blueprint. Dr. Jane Mount Pleasant's Cornell research proved that this low-input science out-yielded the plow. Our future may depend on embracing this complexity. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.